So, Barbara, I'm from
Yep.
Poland. As before, I will ask mostly about Iga.
Yep.
It was clearly defeated in the Cincinnati semifinals on the very fast court by Aryna Sabalenka. Her first defeat to Aryna in straight set. Does this mean that Iga can no longer be considered as the main favorite before the US Open?
No, not really, because you have to kind of look at the whole year as well. You don't just look at one tournament or two tournaments. Iga is still the most consistent player on the tour. She's the absolute number one. I think she's leading Aryna Sabalenka by 2,500 points. And I think that says it all, at the end of the day. She's won, I think, 6 titles this year as well, Iga. And yes, on the super fast court, she lost against Aryna. We know Aryna is one of the few ones who can beat her, who can put her under a lot of pressure. Also, let's not forget, you mentioned it, the courts in Cincinnati are so much faster than they probably will be at the US Open. So, I would think that Iga is the favorite. Aryna obviously is in the mix as well. And maybe, I wouldn't probably Coco Gauff put her in the mix at the moment because she hasn't played great tennis. You can never rule out Elena Rybakina, but no, for me, it's Iga. I know she won the title once. It's probably, we know French Open is a favorite tournament, but I wouldn't read too much into that loss against Arena at the semis in Cincy.
There were some rumors that the conditions in the US Open this year would be as fast as Cincinnati, but there are reports from players after training and qualifying matches that the courts are noticeably slower than those in Cincy. Would you agree that this is a very good news for Higa?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we all know the faster the courts are, the more problems she has with her forehand. Sometimes she stresses a little bit. I think it starts mentally already, and then with the forehand, she has problems with the timing. And definitely, I mean, she would like it or prefer it a little bit slower. Nowadays, most of the courts, compared to when I used to play, for example, they're so much slower than they used to be, which I think for Iga is handy. I think it levels the tennis out a lot more as well. And it probably has to be a little bit like that because when you play so many tournaments, and then you have to adjust not just to the different time change, but also to the surface all the time. It's a little bit tricky and it's difficult for even more difficult for the players. So yeah, I mean, if the players have said that, I can't wait to be there and just have a look at myself when I watch. Ash is usually also different than some of the other courts, the outside courts. So it'll be interesting to get an idea how fast it actually is. But as the players have said, I mean, they're playing there, they're hitting the ball. It's good news for Iga, not Eva. It's not Eva Maioli, it's Iga Świątek.
Yeah. This season, together with the Olympics, is very intense, and Iga complained a bit again. And there are too many tournaments, which is why tennis players lose the joy of playing, and the risk of burnout is high. After this award, she was criticized for constantly complaining. Evgeny Kafelnikov even said that she should earn less money as a punishment. Do you agree with what Iga said, and should she speak out about it?
Well, that's obviously how she feels, but I think if you look at the big picture, I think we can be very happy where the sport is at the moment. There's working opportunities, job opportunities for many players every week, and that's what we wanted. That's what we didn't have at my time. We didn't have the prize money as high it is now. In my times, we didn't have equal prize money, and I think if you look at where women's tennis is now, we can be very proud of. And then it's everybody else's decision how many tournaments you play. You don't have to play the full schedule. It's
There
funny,
are
I
a lot
looked
of
at
there are a
some
lot
of
of
the players
mandatory
before.
tournaments, but there are a lot of
Yeah, but you can still, I think there is ways out. I mean, there's mandatory tournaments, yes, but how many are there? There's 10 mandatory, and then there's 4 Grand Slams, right? So you could potentially only play 14 tournaments. But I mean, in my days, I played about 24, 25 tournaments, and that's just the way it is. It's a full-time job, being a tennis player. And I think it's a great thing. If you look at, just now at the Olympics, when I was watching them, and you see the swimmers, you see track and field, you see all these other athletes who only have opportunities, every now and then to compete. They have 4 or 5 races maybe a year, and they can't make any money. That's where you have to be a little bit careful how you phrase it, I think. And that's why Iga copped probably a little bit of criticism. I saw that from Yevgeny Kafelnikov, and I know exactly what he means. But she's played 14 events this year. She's playing a fair bit, a lot. When I look at Musetti, he's played 23 events already. When I look at Novak Djokovic, he plays 9 events. So I think she's at a stage in her career where she just has to choose wisely what tournaments she should play and which one she should give a miss. And I don't know about the exact ruling at the mandatory events. When you pull out, it costs money, yes, and you get a fine, but maybe it's worth it, to miss one every now and then. I think Iga is a player, she stresses when she sees other players play all the time and probably win tournaments. She goes like, I have to play. I think she needs to find that balance as well if she wants to have a long career. And that's not easy, because I know exactly how that feels, but just to take her breaks in between, and maybe less is sometimes even more.
Iga has also been criticized recently for her toilet breaks, which she always takes after losing sets to reset and clear her mind. This is, of course, within the rules, but Lindsay Davenport said a few days ago that it is a bad habit and the tennis authorities should look into it. What is your opinion on this one?
Well, it's a tricky one. I mean, you can't really check, if somebody's actually using the toilet or not. It's totally legal. So if that helps her to regroup, why not? Do that, especially places like Cincinnati, it's extremely hot. It's one of the hottest conditions, I think, during the year. So, it's not just Iga who does it. We see Novak Djokovic doing it. We see other players doing it. And if, people, fans, authorities are not happy with that, then they have to change that rule, and they should really make sure, okay, are they having a toilet break, a real one or not? I don't think it's a big deal. Tennis is such a physical and a mental sport. What I don't like is when trainers are getting called when you have absolutely no injuries. That's one thing which I don't like. But taking a toilet break, it doesn't take forever. The opponents know that as well. I mean, they can actually use it to their advantage as well. That's why we probably haven't seen it in the past. Lindsay Davenport probably has never done that in the past. That was her thing. But, tennis has changed and rules have changed. And I think that's totally fine for her to do that. I see no problems in that.
So something more pleasant, Iga will start her 118 week as number 1 on Monday, overtaking just 10. With her consistency, do you see any chance that her dominance will end soon? Anybody who can overtake her and stop her dominance?
Well, I mean, as I said, she's got a pretty good lead now, being the number 1. Still, Sabalenka has a few points to defend. She was in the finals last year at the US Open. So I think that Iga personally, if she chooses her schedule wisely, can be on the top for a very long time. I think it's still Steffi Graf is still number 1, isn't she? Still the leader with how many weeks? 300 or something?
I get 377.
Which is unbelievable. I mean, think about that. That's an outstanding consistency. I hope that Iga is not thinking about that, and I hope she doesn't feel pressured, to reach that. I think she has to enjoy this ride as good as she can. I'm sure being number 1 in the world, if you're always the haunted one, if you're always the one who's getting chased, is quite nerve-wracking and is quite tiring as well. She's under a lot of pressure and a lot of stress, even if she probably doesn't feel it. But if she would stop playing tennis from today to tomorrow, she would feel, how much stress she was under. And I think that's something that, a lot of the big players have always talked about that it's probably easier to get there than to stay there. So I think it's amazing, and I think her ride will still continue.
So last questions about Yannick, this big thing after this doping. I guess these explanations sounds quite okay for me, but do you think it's okay it was kept secret for so long time and he was allowed to play during this time?
Well, but I think that's what it is, you know. I think the evaluation. I don't know the exact rules and regulations. It seems like there's a lot of inconsistency sometimes with when they announce things, you know, for us people, you know, and when they keep it a secret a little bit longer. Obviously, they wanted to look at this case closer, quick, because there was an obvious explanation from Yannick and Yannick's team how it all happened. To me, when I read this, it sounds I kind of believe it, you know. But then if I look at Simona Halep and I look at Ymer, for example, or Brooksby, who've been banned and couldn't play, there is a big inconsistency in how things are judged and how people are banned. And it's very, very tricky. I don't have the answers for it. But I mean, I think, you know, you saw photos of the physiotherapist with a band-aid on his finger when he was playing. I think in Indian Wells, right? And I mean, it sounds. I know Yannick, you know, and I don't know if I'm naive, but I believe 100% that he would never. He's so straightforward, you know, that he would never do anything in those regards with doping, you know. So on purpose. I think it was just a little bit of a mistake, you know, and I find it unbelievable. And it was a very small dosage as well, where I think the doctors also said that with this small dosage it's not performance enhancing as well. So I mean, it's unbelievable that he actually could play the way he was playing. It would have been pretty tough for him mentally as well to have a free mind, you know, and be able to compete. And I'm sure he's very relieved, but it's going to be interesting because he will be asked now at the US Open every single day about this. So how he's going to handle that, because it's the first time there's a negative press about him everywhere, all around the world. I woke up this morning in Australia and there was just one article after the other. Then Nick Kyrgios gets involved. Then there's an interview there from the coaches and the team from Yannick. So it was crazy. It was going crazy. So this is only the beginning. I think he has to be very strong now in the next upcoming weeks, couple of weeks during the US Open, because it'll not be about his tennis probably.
Okay. Thank you, Barbara. It was, as always, great to see you and talk to you, and hope to do it again.
I'm sure we will.